Normally Curls on camera here, but I've been shooting today and my hair's actually that long that it's getting in the way, so I've got to tie it up. And yeah, I've been out shooting with this. Had it all weekend from Visual Impact Northwich, and I wanted to test it out on a shoot that we had. So I was working with David Ellison, Mike Staniforth, Dan Tunstall at the big shed, and we were shooting a really cool project. We were shooting a car commercial for Bentley using one of their GT Continental. I think I got that right. This car is a beast. Look out on social media on all of those guys' channels. I'll put a link in the description because when this advert drops, it's going to be awesome. The guys lit the studio with encapsulites, DMG Lumieres, Razor 300 LED, is it? And it was sweet. We shot on a Red Dragon. Everything was cool about this shoot. And the studio space is absolutely awesome, so check out the big shed. But anyway, I was given this camera to test out for the weekend. Visual Impact kind of know that when they put cameras in my hand to test out, I usually come back and buy. But that's a big decision for me. And is this camera worth the money? Well, let's have a look. So my first impressions of it were it's actually, you know, that's a kind of well-built camera. It's a bit of a heavy bugger. Sitting it on the shoulder does feel great, but you start to feel that weight instantly. And picking it up, one thing I first noticed that I didn't like was the fact that this handlebar is really, really short. I need to be like a T-Rex or something to operate this properly, because if you do it for any extended period of time, it's going to ache, it's going to hurt, and you're going to start to do things with your back, and it's no good for nobody, because you won't last for any amount of time. Incidentally, Cal Thompson has just written a blog on strengthening your back and looking after your back by doing exercises and just generally taking care of it on set and how to hold the camera properly. So check out that blog, I'll put a link in the description. So yeah, the first impressions were when I picked it up. It's quite heavy, sits nice on the shoulder. This eyepiece is great, it moves in and out. You can really sit it in a position where it's nice and comfortable. But the only thing is that this handle is a bit short. I'm sure there's many kits out there that you can just extend it. I would like it about here with my arm, just about 90 degrees. That's nice and comfy, but this, it's like, doesn't work for me. Boom. Little disclaimer, I have never used Blackmagic cameras before, so it's a completely new ecosystem, workflow and everything to me. I guess I've never got into them because they always look so different, and it seemed like a big learning curve to get used to that old form factor that they have. And then I think they started reinventing things with the pocket cinema camera and then the Ursa. They started to look like proper cameras then, or stills cameras, and this, I think, is the end development of that. Get rid of that piece of tape. So yeah, it's finally got to a shape which a lot of cameramen desire. The sort of old broadcast style, or as we found out, the Arton. Check out that vlog, it's ace. Sits nice on the shoulder and has lots of buttons. Now, before, they didn't have all these like buttons and doodads all over it, and you had to go through their menu system, which is all touchscreen, which, by the way, is fantastic. Everything is at the tip of your fingertip. Tip of your fingertips. Well, where else is the end of your fingertips? At the tip of your fingers. There we go. Got it. And I can just hit ISO, scroll right through that. Even iris, scroll right through that. White balance, scroll through that. And it's really, really quick using the menu structure that they have there. But what I really like, you have 3 toggles here: ISO, shutter, white balance. And you can incrementally change these values. So say if I want to go from 200 to 400 ISO, flick it up. On my Canon C100, it's pushing the toggle button and pushing up or down. It's 2 clicks instead of 1. Sounds like a small thing, but when you're looking to work fast, it's a huge thing. So I've got the camera sat on my shoulder, and I'm pretty much using the camera like this. So I'm either focusing there, or I've got my 3 toggles and I'm pushing up the ISO, and I've got a little wheel here that I can control the iris, and I'm using it like that. Pull down the ISO, bring up the aperture, there we go. Yeah, really nice. Oh, we've gone from inside to outside. Let's pull down the white balance. It's really nice to use. You've got another few customizable buttons here and a switch into the high frame rate, which within the menu is called off speed. Would have liked the two to have been the same. That's nice that you have customizable buttons right there by your fingertips. 3 other customizable buttons just above there. So again, I'm using the camera. I think I have this one as changing your LUT. So you can display the LUT on and off, which is very useful if you're going back and forth between seeing the grade and seeing what the log footage looks like. And then you've got like a focus assist and focus peaking, which is really handy to have here. Pushing it and just checking if you're in focus. No, I was hideously out. Pull it back. Boom. And yeah, action. That's how it's working. Yeah, I really like how fast you can work with this camera, and I imagine it's miles ahead of what it used to be like. Now we come to the LCD screen. The first thing that people are going to say about this is that it's a little bit difficult for me to now hit all those buttons. It's not a big complaint from me. I've got very quick access to ISO, shutter, and all sorts through the screen rather than having to push all these. That would be nice, maybe in the next version. With every camera, you're going to have your little nags and issues, but I'm really enjoying this. They don't have a sort of AC panel, which I think they had on the Ursa. That's quite nice, but I think this is aimed at more self-shooter operator. Okay, going into the menus. In the record menu, loads of shooting options. ProRes, every kind of flavour. RAW, lots of different flavours in there, but beware. Got a CFast card, 128 gig. I think when I put this in, HD, ProRes LT, which is a good codec, I was getting, about 3 hours on the card, and then I throw it into RAW, 4.6K for instance, and I get 5 minutes. Which, if you plan to shoot that, it's probably like the old days of film where every shot counts and you can't just shoot and hope. You've got to have very precise camera work going on. Fast card readers and lots of cards and lots of space. Imagine the workflow of that is insane. But, I'm coming from a background where I shoot with the C100 and I just shoot all day on like one card. If you're used to that, then, that'll be fine for you. But for me, with low data, I'd have to completely change everything. In the menu, we've got a dynamic range setting, and this is very simplified version of gamma settings, and you've got either film or video, which is basically your log or your sort of Rec 709 in the simplest terms. On the Sony FS7 and FS5, F55, all the 5s and all the Fs. You've got hypergammas and different varieties of log. I use quite a few, 2 hypergammas, and depending on what the shoot is, S-Log2 or S-Log3. I'm quite interested in this workflow, and if a simplified workflow works. I don't really know much about it, but that's all they have on offer, just sort of film or video. The film looks it's got a wide dynamic range, and the video actually looks really nice. And I think I shot with the film, but I'd be willing just to throw on this LUT that looks like they apply to the footage and, get away with it 90% of the time. Audio is so simple. It's kind of amazing. But I'm not really an audio guy. Maybe sound recordists will hate it, but it just seemed really easy to use, and as simple as tapping the audio bars on the main screen and just pulling them up or down. That's a great fast menu item there. Dragging it up or down. Brilliant, I love that. So I've got a bit of a bug about the sound. I hadn't tested it before. I shot using the internal mics, which is definitely scratch audio.
About the batteries inside the car. Yeah. Have you put one of the bigger ones in? No, I mean inside.
But do you want to do this camera?
Yeah,
I'm telling you, mate.
Yeah, go. Okay. I'm Mike Staniforth. I'm the DP today for this Bentley project.
It is awful, but it's better than not having any sound in certain situations. Just annoying that there isn't a little mic bracket. I'm sure you could buy one, but didn't have it, so audio was a little poor. I then went out and used it with my Sony radio mics, and again, sound was a bit terrible. I could hear like a looping sound, and it was very noisy. Maybe I haven't gone into the audio menu too much, or some settings wrong, but you know, first impressions, I like a camera to work out the box, and an FS7 does, and a Canon does. Come on, Blackmagic. Audio inputs go in on the top. I can imagine that being a little annoying, maybe when it's sitting on the shoulder and you've got wires going over your back. FS7 has it in a lovely position, going out the side and the back. Really nice, that's how you should do it. So overall, I think I am really impressed with it. Until today I was shooting an interview. Just using it as a test. Had the Sony radio mics going into it. I did mention that the audio issue was a little hissy. Probably needed to set this up properly. But I was just doing an interview test today, and there's a lag on the image and the audio that I'm listening to. So I'm shooting an interview and I'm seeing the lady talk, but I'm hearing it half a second after. And when I'm communicating with her to maybe direct or suggest things that she should be saying, I'm also hearing myself half a second later, and that is the most annoying thing in the world. That's a deal breaker for me. That would cause me not to hire the camera. I shoot a lot of interviews, and I expect to be looking through the lens and hearing what I'm seeing in sync with the world around me. It is 2017. Cameras should not be coming out of a factory with these problems. Rant over. So that's my first impressions. I do like this camera. There is one bug in it at the minute, which is a huge deal breaker for me renting it out. I definitely wouldn't buy it right now. But it's got a huge feature set. All the flavours of ProRes, which is great for editing, raw recording, if ever you wanted to get into that. A lot of frames per second you can squeeze out of it. It's a nice form factor, it's a little weighty, need to sort that handlebar out, but overall, really nice camera. I'd probably put it against the FS5 and just under the FS7 price range and feature set range. It's around those. If I was looking at purchasing a camera, I've got £6,000, what would I go with? I'd probably look for a used FS7, in all honesty. But if you're used to Blackmagic ecosystem and the way those cameras work, so that workflow, this is probably the best in their lineup. Kills on camera. Ouch! So another thing about the LCD, doesn't go all the way around, so vlogging's out the question.